Hello, this is Lavinia at Cross Keys Crafts. I'm still making Easter cards, a few weeks till Easter, so I need to get them on the way. And I thought for today's cards, I will make quite a few, I'll show you different background techniques, all with a stencil. For some of them I will use my gel plate, pardon me, that they just stick to the hairs here. Because it's Easter, I'm going to use my whimsical hairs again. And I have got some stamping foam here. I know you can buy this from Simon Hurley, but when he first released it, I didn't like the price point. So I got this from Amazon and it was a bit cheaper there. If this is still available, I'm going to link to that below. I know I've got quite a few of these. I want to say 8 of them in a pack, and that was better than the 4-pack you get from Simon Hurley. And what you do with this is you can heat this up with your heat tool, and then you can take impressions. You can take impressions with your dies, you can take impressions with your stencils, which is what I'm doing today, but any sort of texture, sort of not too deep, you can take imprints of, like a lace, like fabric, all sorts you can do. I did it with a knitted sock, it was great. And then you can stamp with this afterwards. And I want to show you that technique today as my first one. And because this stamping foam is rather small, I have decided to use a small oval die and make small 6x4 cards. This just about fits on here because I want to die cut this piece later. I might have to ink blend a little bit around the edge to disguise any bits that I haven't cut out of this paper. And this is also the reason why another card will be that size. Well, all of the cards I will keep to this size just to have the comparison afterwards. So what I need for that obviously is my heat tool. Let me just get that ready. You will obviously have some noise on the video. I don't know how to mute that, but yeah, apologies for that in advance, but I'll show you in a second how that works. I have just heated up my heat tool for about 30 seconds to spare you that noise. And what I'm doing now is I'm directing the heat on the foam. Doesn't take long. And then immediately you need to press it onto your shape. Don't wait, don't rearrange anything, and you need to apply quite a bit of pressure. And I think Simon Hurley actually uses an acrylic block on top to have even pressure. And when you've done that, oh, mine is a bit sticky. See, this is not deep enough. I don't even know if the camera picks that up. So I'll have to do that again. I will heat it up a bit more and then take another impression. Also depends on the thickness of your stencil, so let me try that again. Got a bit more pressure on it now. And you just saw the image actually disappears when you heat up that stamp, or the foam I should say. Yeah, that's much better. Can you see that is a bit missing in the middle where I haven't applied enough pressure? So let me get my acrylic block ready. I will leave this in because it shows you what can happen if you don't apply enough pressure. So I'm just getting an acrylic block and I'm doing this once again. So by putting the acrylic block on top, I hopefully have got enough pressure on all the areas. Don't know whether it would help to have some foam underneath, like a silicone mat. Yeah, I'll give that another try with a silicone mat. I quickly did this off camera. I wouldn't say that this is actually a better impression than I had before. So I think I will keep on going. Having said that, that might just not be helpful at all. So, I'll give it another go. I think it's a trial and error thing with these. I'm sure I've had good impressions in the past, so I think maybe I just need to change the angle that I'm pressing at, because I'm pressing in the middle of the table where the camera is. So I will actually move it a bit closer to me, I think, and just give it another try off camera. Yeah, so that worked for me. It's a bit of a better angle, I think. You need quite a bit of pressure, and as I said, it depends on how thick your stencil is. So what I need now is to ink this up is a brayer. I haven't picked a colour yet. I think I just picked my favourite one, which is the blue atoll. It's not necessarily an Easter colour, but I really, really like that. And I'll tell you, the other thing I've forgotten to get ready is some cardstock. Bear with me. I just did another little experiment, because when I switched my camera off, I had a little thought whether, because these are such small gaps here, whether they basically were resisting the stamping platform. So I tried it with a more open stencil, and I think that result is a bit better. So that's worth keeping in mind, but I will have a go at that anyway. I hope it works. So I'm just using my usual 300 GSM UK Crafts cardstock. You just want a smooth one. And I've got some scrap paper here on the side. And all I need to do is ink up my brayer. And this is something I learned new, is when you ink it up, lift it up as well. Not only at the end, because you want to spread it out evenly. Otherwise you've got the edge of the ink pad on your piece. So I'm just applying that here like this, and then what you need to do, you need a little bit of water to spritz this, just to mist it, basically to activate the ink, and then you can stamp with this, and hopefully that works. So again, I think I'll just use my acrylic block to give it a little bit of pressure and see what happens. I've only done this once, by the way. Yeah, this is better than I thought it would be. Can you see? So you've got a bit of a background specks there, but you've got the lovely stencil pattern. And you can spritz this again, and I will just show you what it looks like, because you've got ink left on that. It will be obviously a bit fainter, but you can still activate that and stamp again. I think this is good fun. And I sometimes do like the fact that it's not an exact science. It's proper, you know, crafting, being creative. Oh yeah, that's not a lot of, well, it's a lot of ink, but not as defined actually. So never mind, I can use the back for another project. And obviously I could ink this up, but I want to just do one card per technique I want to show you. So for the second one, I want to use the gel plate, especially whilst I've got my brayer out. So using the same stencil, press that down there, and again I'm using my brayer to apply the ink. And I just really need an area that is as large as the die I want to use. So if I just do half of that gel plate, that'll be fine. So I'm going to lift this up, and now I can take a print, just doing it on the back of this one, pressing it down, there we go. And this is nice as well. If I show you this one in comparison, obviously we don't have any specks in the background. So, but let me just think, do we have anything left on here? I haven't done gel printing in a while either. Let me just take a piece of paper and let me see. Got anything left? Yeah, very faint. Again, not enough for me to want to use it, but you can do that. But what you can use is the leftover ink on this one. So what I'm going to do, just get this out of the way, is I'm going to spritz this with water, and then I'm going to put it on that piece of paper. So if I say spritz, it's just really just a mist ideally. This might already be too wet. So I'm placing it down here, and I'm just getting some more scrap paper. And I'm just pressing this down. If you're wondering what this is from an old pub quiz of mine. I just reuse those sheets. There you go, very interesting. Can you see it created some edges there of the stencil? They're almost like drawn lines, and then we've got puddles of the ink in between. So I need to leave that to dry properly, but I think that looks really, really cool. So I'm just setting that aside here. And again, you could do something else with that. You could do some, obviously, some plain ink blending. I might actually just do that. So I'm just placing this down here, and I'm just using a brush. Let me just get the proper brush out. So obviously I've got some residue of the ink there. I'll just get some scrap paper to protect my fingers. And I can just move that about and just spread that out on the paper. I like to play around sometimes without really, sometimes, you know, even if I have some results that are not very good, but I like this. Look at that. It's like stenciling, but with a bit of a watercolour effect. And obviously these are lovely stencils from Lavinia, so I love those. So for the last technique I wanted to show you, I hope I haven't forgotten one. I have cut some pieces of cardstock, the oval shape I want to cut the others out with. And this is just some scrap paper that, or cardstock, that comes underneath my yogurts. And I cut 4 of these. These are the thickness of my bottom plate. You know, this one here. I suppose so, yeah, close enough anyway. Because this is, I want this to work like a diffuser, and I'll show you in a moment what I mean with that. But in order to do this technique, I need to stamp my hair first, because my hair will be embossed as well. So bear with me whilst I get my paper and my stamp ready. So I've got my 2 hairs ready here. These are from the Wild Hair Set Large, and I'm just going to stamp these on either side of where I will have the oval. Obviously the technique I'm going to show you, you can have that, you know, create that in a bit of an easier way by just dry embossing the whole stencil, and well, cut the shape beforehand and then dry emboss this, and then just having the stairs off that area. But I want to partially emboss these as well, because I want to basically show this. I forgot now what the technique is called. Sorry, I've got brain fog tonight. It'll come back to me. Sorry about that. So I'm going to place this one here. Yeah, and I showed you this before. Whenever I've got pieces missing, when it's a bit speckled, I just go in with a brush and just fill in those areas with the ink from the ink pad. I might have to re-ink my ink pad as well. I think it might be time to do that. Yeah, there it is. So, one thing I've also forgotten now is to clean my stencil if I want to use the same one. I might just, for demonstration purposes, no, I do clean this one. Bear with me whilst I do that. Sorry to keep you waiting all the time, but for you it's just a few seconds anyway. So I've washed my stencil, and I tell you what, I do apologise, I've got proper brain fog today. I cannot use this stencil in my die cutting machine because it's obviously too wide. So for demonstration purposes, I have to find a smaller stencil because I've only got this Sizzix Big Shot, and that's only 6 inches wide. Yeah, apologies for that again, and I just find a stencil that would work. Okay, so I found this one here, and I think that also works nicely for Easter. So what I need to do is I've got my bottom plate here from my die cutting machine, and then I've got a silicone mat. This is just a kitchen mat I cut into pieces so I can use it for various projects. I'm putting my stencil on top. No, let me just think which way around. No, I'm putting my cardstock on first. Then I'm placing my stencil on top. And then I'm placing this oval here where I would like to have it. I might even stick this down just a little bit, just like that. And then I'm putting my top plate on top. And what this does in theory, it applies pressure only where I've got this piece of cardstock, and the rest should not be embossed if it works properly. So let me just put this with my die cutting machine. This is why we took the one plate away. So yeah, and it has worked wonderfully. Can you see? So the edges have got no embossing on them, and the middle is embossed. And you can now, if you wanted to, ink this up, again possibly with a brayer, but what I would do is cut the oval shape and create a mask. I think I will do this quickly, and then we can ink the middle up. I've just cut the mask from some scrap paper, and I can place this on top here now. Make sure I've got this in place, and I'm just using the leftover ink on my brayer. I did try it whether I had some leftover ink, so there's even less on there, but I think it will be just enough to ink this up. Obviously I've got a little bit of a streak thing going there now. Should have maybe gone across, and also where I'm going on the edges, it doesn't want to catch. I think what I will do is I will come with a slightly different ink just to take away from the little streaks there. So I'm just getting this one out, and I'm just using, I've got this polar blue, that's a lighter one. Ooh! See, this is what I tend to do sometimes. Luckily I've got my mask on there. So let me just move that. Don't know if you sometimes got these days when you should best not be in the craft room. But yeah, so I'm just going in on the edges here, probably taking a little bit away from those streaks, but I don't mind too much. It's a homemade card. think that'll do me. Can you see? I think this is pretty. Could have gone a bit darker there, but I think this is fine. And you can now see what I needed to stamp these hairs beforehand, because obviously I could not have stamped on the embossed areas. Yeah, I think this is quite cool. So what I will quickly do off camera is I will die cut some of these. Some of these I will have to stamp the hairs on. I think I'll quickly do this off camera to keep this video as short as I can, and then I'll just show you the finished cards and talk you through what I have done. So 2 of my cards are finished except for the sentiment that I have to add later. This is the one where I use the diffuser, I remember the word now. So I just cut it to size. By the way, I put all these on some top folding cards that are cut from A4 cardstock. So these are 4 inches wide and 5 7/8 long. And yeah, this one I just used a corner rounder. I always find that a bit neater and nicer, as I just need to add a sentiment here. This one is the one where I took a print from the stencil by misting it, and because it looked so psychedelic, I thought I'd add a few more hairs. I think this is really cool. It's probably my favourite, although this was one of the backgrounds I hadn't planned. So, and then for the other 2 cards, I just want to show you something. This one is straightforward. First of all, this is the gel plate background. And in hindsight, I should have made it a little bit longer because it fits a bit funnily on the card. But I think if I add the sentiment at the bottom, I think this will be okay. But my idea is to create a floating frame. So I'm going to stick this down first. But I'm placing this one here as a sort of mask around it, so I know where to stick the oval down. So I'm just using my magic glue. That'll be enough. And I'm just setting this in here, because that means this will be straight and where I need it to be, and then I can take this away and press this down firmly. Also pressing from the back, because I had problems in the past with glues creating, you know, some, not bubbles, but sort of little bits, and I find if I press it enough, the glue spreads out properly. Oh, by the way, if you want to, you can put a white panel on the inside for a sentiment if you have coloured cardstock. I sometimes don't bother if the coloured cardstock is not too dark. So, and all I need to do with this, but I will be doing this off camera, is put some foam pads on the back, and then I will raise this up a little bit, and I think this gives a nice difference to it. Obviously you could stick this down on the cardstock and raise the middle bit, but I'm going to do something similar with this one here. This is the one where I just used the leftover ink on the stencil and just basically stenciled through it, and I want to use that as a background for this piece, and that's the stamping foam. But when I was stamping, I got my finger into my ink pad and I have a little smudge here at the top, and I just want to show you how I can disguise that. I just stamped a little butterfly. This is the one from the fairy book set, onto a piece of paper. It's a thicker cardstock. I coloured it with my Kuretake pens, but I just cut out the wings. And the other thing I did off camera, I went around with my black ink pen just from the back to colour the edges, because then you can't see any white core. But because the little feet are so difficult to cut out, let me just show you there, and I want this to sit on a raised bit, I'm just going to stamp the feet and the feelers and the body onto here, and I'm just going to basically decoupage the wings. So I'm just getting my ink pad again, because this will be raised, and I would have to, if I want the whole butterfly on the edges, I would have to fussy cut all these fine bits. So And I did the same thing again. See what I do? I'm putting my acrylic block in the ink. Let me just wipe this off on the side here. Don't know why I've been doing that. I don't think I've ever done that before. So I'm just stamping this a bit overlapping, but definitely making sure I've got the body and the antennae on that piece here. Yeah, that's fine. So what I will do with this, I will raise this on foam pads in the middle, and then I will just stick, or maybe I'll do this first, I will just stick the wings here on the card edge, just glue it down. You can easily see where it goes, and then this will sit nicely, and it's perfectly covered that smudge on the edge, and it looks very intentional as well. So I quickly finish this one, and then I'll show you the last two cards in their finished version. So I finished all my cards with a die cut sentiment, and I just cut that from a similar colour to this, like a pearlescent cardstock, and I thought that worked really nicely to fill these spaces that were free. So really pleased with this one. This one, it was a bit of a squeeze with the Easter because I hadn't planned ahead of that. I should have raised this hair a little bit. But yeah, I think this is really nice. And I think this works for a mail card. I'm sure I sent this to one of my brothers. I think this is really cool. Then with this one, as well as with this one, I added another butterfly. Same method, decoupaging the wings there and stamping the butterfly underneath. I think that is really nice. And by putting the happy in the middle, I'm taking away a little bit from that streak here that got created through my brayer. But yeah, I think this is cool too with the embossed element. It's gone a little bit lost, but basically you can only see it because it's been dyed. But I think it's good fun, that technique. And this is the one with the gel plate background and with a floating frame. This is a bit wonky, by the way, but I don't mind too much. But with this one, because the blue cardstock got a little bit lost on the blue background, I offset this sentiment, which means I cut it in white as well, just a thinner cardstock, and I glued the blue onto the white, but moved a little bit to the side. So you've got this sort of shadow to it, and that offsets it from the blue, and then now it's easy to see. By the way, I always use, for intricate die cuts like that, I always use my Zig two-way glue marker. This is fabulous. It's got a fine tip, and all I need to do is dot on it, and the glue is blue to start with, and when it gets clear it stays sticky or tacky, and then you can press it down. And yeah, I'm really pleased with the cards I have created. And yeah, if you like these two, you might want to give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, you might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that, and I'll see you soon with another video.